So obviously it's official. The Tory leadership race has officially started and they're off. And quite frankly, the field of candidates is just so god-awful. But I'm sure you can expect more. By the time I'm already doing this, obviously this is a week after. But when a website like City AM decides to do an article on how bad Boris Johnson will be, then you probably know they're not looking forward to who's going to get elected either, because all the bookies are saying it could very well be Johnson. So this is from City AM, as we said. We'll dive straight into it. Is this serious? Boris Johnson's 39 billion threat gives City the jitters. Oh, there we go. Boris Johnson's threat is to withhold the UK's 39 billion Brexit divorce bill raised eyebrows in the city yesterday and provoked a strong reaction from across the channel. The former mayor of London vowed to hold on to the cash to force the EU to give Britain a better withdrawal deal as part of his pitch to become Prime Minister over the weekend. What? Making threats like that is not how you do a deal. This is just not how you do it. So, Wordplay chairman and former Confederation of British Industry President Sir Michael Rake told City AM such a move would have a terrible effect on Britain's reputation as an international negotiating partner. We've seen what happens with countries who don't pay their debts, he said. These are legal requirements, which is something we've been saying from the very beginning, that this is a legal requirement for us to leave, and yet Brexiteers just don't think that these legal things seem to happen. Because what if you were to, shall we say, later try and sign another trade agreement with a legal requirement in it? How does that party know you're going to honour that agreement? They're not going to sign it with you in the first place. So this does nothing but damage our international reputation. As usual, that's pretty much Boris's job at the moment, apparently. Anyone who thinks negotiating by making threats in public, a la Trump, in a business world is the way to succeed is completely mistaken, he added. Is this serious? A spokesperson for influential business group, the Institute of Directors, said that it... Oh, hang on, that's the ad there, going crazy. Where were we? The spokesperson for Institute of Directors said it would be, quote, far better for business and for the UK if we could reach an agreement with the EU, and any agreement will involve settling the finances. The UK will have an amicable partnership with the EU, whatever happens. Public affairs firm Serco chairman Ian Anderson said, the adverts on this page are absolutely awful. It's getting in the way of everything. If this is about using threats to try and walk away from the table, I think they will make a lot of people in the city incredibly nervous. Johnson's comments came in an interview with the Sunday Times. He said that the EU needs to understand that the money is going to be retained until such a time as we have greater clarity about the way forward. We have clarity about the way forward, Boris. The problem is that, as usual, these hard Brexiteers like Boris have drunken the Kool-Aid, and they can't hook themselves off it. They've committed to a fantasy that cannot be made real. He says he would hasten Whitehall's no-deal preparations if he was elected Tory leader. Under his stewardship, Britain would leave the bloc on October 31st, with or without a deal, he added. A source close to French President Emmanuel Macron told Reuters last night that failing to pay the 39 billion would amount to a national default. Not honouring your payment obligations is a failure of international commitment equaling to a sovereign debt default, whose consequences are well known. Mr. Guy Verhofstadt added, this would not only hurt the UK's credibility as an international partner, but it is absolutely unacceptable and contradicts what almost every lawyer in the UK thinks about it. Oh. Tory MPs have flocked to Johnson's side after he topped several polls of which the 11 candidates would make the best MP. James Kilvey last week withdrew his own leadership bid to endorse former Foreign Secretary, Treasury Secretary Liz Truss and Transport Secretary Chris Grayling have also thrown their weight behind him. Although, given Chris Grayling's track record, there is a reason why he's called Failing Grayling. Johnson made his pitch public as the other leadership hopefuls ramped up their rhetoric on how they would force the EU to back to the negotiating table. Former Work and Pension Secretary Esther McVey echoed Johnson's promise as part of her own bid for the top job, saying that $39 billion was back on the table. Meanwhile, fellow Tory frontrunner Michael Gove struggled to put a lid on the revelations he took cocaine hours after condemning the middle-class professionals using it in the Times 20 years ago. He told the BBC yesterday he deeply regrets using the Class A drug several times. And of course, that's where we are now. And as usual, what's really scary is a lot of these Conservatives are pushing around a no deal. First things first, we know 100% Parliament will not back a no-deal exit. They will stop a no-deal exit. That is pretty much confirmed at this point. Remember, in the series of indicative votes, only 69 MPs voted to leave the EU without a deal. That will not happen. Any further advancement to try and get beyond this without a withdrawal agreement creates hundreds of thousands of problems. What are you going to do about the border on Ireland? The USA has already stated that if we break the Good Friday Agreement, and by the way, Good Friday Agreement is international law, so we will be breaking international law if we put a hard border across Ireland. So, you know, there's more. Continuously more, because if you say you want a no deal and you leave with a no deal, then officially on November 1st, no aircraft can take off or fly to the United Kingdom because there is no aviation agreement. So you cannot fly. So, and that's just there are loads, hundreds of thousands of problems potentially come into this. A no deal is an absolute catastrophe. It will cause thousands upon billions, probably more than billions, trillions worth of pounds of damage to this country, in not only just financial damages but reputation damage to this country, and who knows what other consequences it will have. We've already seen more and more businesses are going to go. So if you think someone like Boris gets in and wins the job, what do you think? Do you think these companies are going to hasten their reaction to leave? Absolutely, they're going to hasten their departure date. So, as usual, we are stuck in an absolutely terrifying situation where all the Tory leadership candidates, bar one, want to leave on a no deal, which at this point is a complete fantasy that cannot be done. All this is, rhetoric they're just trying to impress people with. And the problem is, sooner or later, you've got to either deliver on the rhetoric or not, or say you just can't do it. And we are in a situation which is proving more and more that the UK is just a dog without teeth. It's all bark and no bite. And we are showing that everything that we said prior to the referendum, that we are this amazing economy, is being proved to be true. And we are going to go down the absolute toilet. And the people to blame are the Brexiteers. Because they're the ones who said this would be a good idea, and they said, you know, it's going to be sunny hill uplands.